Hello everyone. I will introduce you to the topic literary devices. Literary devices, everything you need to know to analyze figurative language in poetry, drama, literature, speeches, etc. I'll give you an essential question. What are the literary devices I need to understand to analyze poetry, drama, and other literature? Students understand, make inferences, and draw conclusions about how an author's sensory language creates imagery in literary text and provide evidence from text to support their understanding. Figurative language, language that's not meant to be taken literally or word for word. Imagery, sensory language, the use of language to create mental images and sensory expressions for emotional, effect, and intensity. For example, he could hear his world crashing down when he heard the news about her. The next example, a host of golden daffodils besides the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continues as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. From Daffodils by William Wordsworth. Firstly, I will introduce simile, a comparison of two things that are essentially different using the words like or as. For example, oh, my love is like a red, red rose, from Robert Burns, a Red, Red Rose poem. The next device is about metaphor, a subtle comparison in which an author describes a person or thing using words that are not meant to be taken literally. For example, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. From As You Like It by William Shakespeare. Sisters, she calls me tofu because I'm so soft, easily falling apart. I wish I were tough and full of fire, like Ginger, like her. Metaphors, types, extended metaphor, a metaphor introduced and then further developed throughout all or part of a literary work, especially a poem. Comparison can be made to something else not mentioned in the poem. For example, Nothing Gold can stay by Robert Frost. It is extended metaphor example. The next, Nothing Gold can stay by Robert Frost. Nature's first queen is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaves a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaves subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. Comparison life to a sunrise. The next device is about personification, figurative meaning in which non-human things or abstractions are represented as having human qualities. For example, necessity is the mother of all invention. The next device is hyperbole, an intentional and extreme exaggeration for emphasis or effect. For example, this book weighs a ton. The next is an idiom. Phrases people use in everyday language which don't make sense literally, but the meaning is understood. For example, just hold your horses, If you think idioms are hard, I'm here to let the cat out of the bag. Idioms are a dime a dozen, and learning them is a piece of a cake. The next is about sound devices. Focus on the sound of words rather than their meaning. The next device is repetition. Repetition is when an author repeats as a word, phrase, sentence, or stanza for effect or emphasis. For example, the chorus or refrain of almost any song. This poem by Shel Silverstein. How not to have to dry the dishes. If you have to dry the dishes, such an awful boring chore. If you have to dry the dishes instead of going to the store. If you have to dry the dishes and you drop one on the floor, maybe they won't let you dry the dishes anymore. If you have to dry the dishes, repeat some more. That's why it is repetition. The next device is about rhyme. Rhyme is the repetition of the end sound in two or more words or phrases that appear close to each other in a poem. For example, oh lovely orange, A, you golden treat, B, oh tell me why aren't, C, you easy to eat, B. The next device is about alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the sound at the beginning of the words. Common examples: Coca-Cola, Teeny Tim, Mickey Mouse. For example, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, said by Edgar Allan Poe. The next device is about assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds, often creates near rhyme. The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe poems, for example, hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight from the molten golden notes, and in tune what a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. The next device is about consonants. Consonant is the repetition of consonant sounds at the end or middle of words, not rhyme. For example, don't go gentle into that good night by Diane Toms. Blind eyes could blaze that sound. Curse bless me now with your first tears as sound. For example, here is given poem. Don't go gentle into that good night. Old age should turn the rage at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So wise men and their end. Now dark is right. Because their words had forked no lighting they. Don't go gentle into that good night. Good man, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild man who caught and sang the sun is flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Don't go gentle into that good night, grave man near death, who see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse bless me now with your fierce tears. I pray, don't go gentle into that good night. that poem is a consonant. The next device is about onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia, a word that sounds like a sound it makes, for example, pop, crackle, scratch, zip, fizz, not just sound effects. Here is given the poem by Robert Browning, the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and here their shrill notes the pipe uttered. You heard as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the house the rats came trembling. It's shrill, muttered, grumbling, rumbling. It's a onomatopoeic word because sounds like it's imitating sounds words. Other literary device, even more, is about symbol. A symbol is an object, person, place, or action that has a meaning in itself and that also stands for something larger than itself. For example, a dove symbolizes peace. A black crow or raven symbolizes death. A wedding ring symbolizes, it's a wedding. You know it? The next device is about allusion. An allusion is a reference to a person, place, event, or literary work that a writer expects the reader to recognize and understand. It may come from history, geography, literature, art, music, or religion. For example, you were Romeo, you were throwing pebbles, and my daddy said, "Stay away from Juliet," love song by Taylor Swift. The next device is about oxymoron. An oxymoron is a figure of speech in which opposites are paired for effect. Further examples, Pershing is such sweet sorrow, Romeo and Juliet, so foul and fair a day, I haven't seen Macbeth. The next device is about aphorism. Aphorism, a concise statement of a general truth or principle, like a truism. For example, a penny saved is a penny earned. Ben Franklin, the man who doesn't read good books has no advantage over the man who cannot read them. Mark Twain. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. From To Kill Mockingbird by Harper Lee. The next device is about epigraph, a quotation at the beginning of a literary work or to introduce its theme. For example, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, so shalt not eat of it, for it in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. From Twilch by Stephen Meyer. The next device is about irony, a literary technique used to create meaning that seems to contradict and literal meaning or events. Irony may be verbal, situational, and dramatic. Verbal irony, use of words in which the intended meaning is contrary to the literal meaning. For example, are we gonna do anything today? Or is class gonna be fun today? In Shrek, when Fiona says, where are you going? And Shrek replies, I've got to save my ass. Speaking of donkey, of course. Situational irony, implying through plot or character that a situation is quite different from way it is presented. Example, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Scarecrow always had a brain, Tin Man always had a heart. Drosy could have always gone home. The cowardly lion wasn't a coward after all. Dramatic irony, Dramatic device in which a character says or does something that he or she doesn't fully grasp, but which is understood by the audience. For example, Lois Lane is constantly trying to get an interview with Superman, but she actually sees him every day and doesn't know it, said by Clark Kent. The next device is about sarcasm. A bit of irony can be intended to the tears or hurt, often insinuated by the tone. Late Greek sarcasmos, sarkazens, tear flesh, gnash, the teeth, speak bitterly, sark, flesh. For example, I'm proud of you, Mom. You are like Christopher Column. You discovered something millions of people knew about before you. Lisa Simpson. It is a sarcasm. The next device is about paradox, a seemingly contradictory statement that on closer analysis reveals a deeper trust. For example, I am nobody anonymous. I can't resist anything but temptation. Oscar Wilde. Nobody goes to that restaurant. It's too crowded. For analyzing poetry, it's a refrain about a phrase or verse recurring at intervals in a song or poem, especially at the end of each stanza, chorus. For example, all you need is love. Love is all you need. The Beatles. The next device is about rhythm, the beat created by the sounds of the words in a poem. Rhythm can be created by meter, rhyme, scheme, alteration, assonance, and refrain. The next device is about stanza. Stanza is a group of related words in a poem, similar to a paragraph or prose, but doesn't have to have complete sentences. It's like a poetry paragraph. When the teacher's back is turned by Ken Nesbitt. When the teacher's back is turned, we never scream and shout, never do we drop our books and try to freak her out. No one throws a pencil. At the sailing of the class, no one tries to hit the fire alarm and break the glass. The next, I will introduce you style. Style is a manner or way of writing. It involves how something is said rather than what's actually said. A writer's style is determined by the way he or she uses words, for example, vivid verbs, imaginary sentence structure. Here is given two authors' writing styles, for example. The next. Is about tone. Tone is a writer's attitude toward the subject, character, or audience, and is conveyed through the author's choice of diction, imagery, figurative language, details, and syntax. In other words, tone is how the author feels about his subject, character, or audience, and he shows it through the words he chooses and how he puts them together. Tone, some words that can describe tone are happy, excited, angry, sad, fearful, threatening, thoughtful, nervous, ecstatic, worried, depressed. And mood, the feeling that the writer creates for the reader, is how the reader is supposed to feel about the subject. Descriptive words, imagery, and figurative language all influence the mood of the literary work. The next is about theme. Theme is the central message of the literary work or the idea, also wishes the convey about the subject. It's not the same as the subject, which can be expressed in one or two words. This is a lot like a truism. Possible themes for the outsiders. Not all kids who are in gangs are bad. People may come from different backgrounds, but we are all the same people. If something bad happens to someone, don't blame it on yourself if it's not really your fault. Thank you for your attention. If you liked my video, press like button and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Bye.